Hey guys, get ready because today we're going to sharpen some pencils. Hey, Cody here with Fount Atelier, where I provide classical art training designed for the 21st century. And like I said, today we're going to learn how to really sharpen a pencil. And no, I don't mean sharpen a pencil with the old hand crank, the twisty ones that you might have used as a kid, or even an electric pencil sharpener. But what I mean is we're going to actually sharpen them with a blade, the way they used to do it hundreds of years ago. Do you guys remember using those old style pencil sharpeners, the ones that were always on the wall at school, or the little plastic dinky ones that you got with an art kit when you were a kid? I don't know about you, but whenever I used those, it always seemed like the lead constantly broke off inside, and then you had to go get like a paper clip or something and try and jimmy it out of there. That's not going to work. Those old ways of sharpening pencils just don't work very well. And the reason is because to do it, you're using a twisting motion. And it doesn't matter whether it's the little plastic cheap ones, a high dollar electric one, or the old crank ones that were on the wall at your elementary school. They all use a rotational mechanism to sharpen the pencil. And while it works, yes, it exposes like maybe a quarter of an inch of graphite in the pencil. That twisting and turning of the pencil lead causes it to crack and break a lot of times if you move the pencil at all while you're doing it. So I'm going to show you a much better way using nothing but a blade and sandpaper. Before we get to that though, I'm going to go ahead and talk about 4 reasons why doing it this way is so beneficial. Reason number 1 is that it creates a way sharper point than you're ever going to get with a mechanical sharpener. And this is really beneficial, especially if you're going to do really, really fine detail. And sharpening it this way and using the pencil in the way that I'll teach you also helps it stay sharp for longer. So you're not having to make as many trips over to the pencil sharpener. Reason number 2, doing it this way allows you to make a lot more different types of marks on your paper. Now, most of the time, we tend to draw like we write, meaning that we hold the pencil up like this, really close to the tip, and we draw with it like that, right? Pretty simple. The problem with that is it really limits what you can do with the pencil. By exposing more graphite on the tip, we're able to do things like lay it down a little bit flatter, use the side of the graphite rod that's in it, and you can make some really nice broad marks that you can't get using it the traditional way. Reason number 3, it encourages you to use a light touch when you draw. One of the number 1 things that I see beginning students do is they press down way too hard on the paper and make a dark mark. This is problematic because that dark mark can be kind of hard to erase in case you need to move things around, which, let's be honest, we all have to do that fairly often when we draw. And we want to get into the habit of making a lighter mark. So when you expose so much off of the tip of the pencil, it forces you to hold it a little bit farther back. And when you do that, you're putting less weight on the tip of the pencil and therefore creating a lighter mark on the paper. Reason number 4 you should sharpen your pencil like this is because, I mean, let's just be honest. It looks freaking cool, right? Like, I could play darts with this thing. All right, let's take a look at what materials we'll need to do this. So I've listed links to all of these things in the description below the video in case you want to get these and give this a try yourself. First of all, we're going to need some pencils that need to be sharpened. So I've got a number of pencils here. It doesn't really matter what types of pencils. You just need some unsharpened pencils. Next, you need a really big knife. Just kidding. Actually, you just need an X-Acto knife. A standard size X-Acto knife that you would get at any hobby store or on Amazon will work just fine. And you'll need a sanding paddle. So this is a nitrum sanding paddle. It works fantastic for this, but you can use any sort of sandpaper. All right, guys, now before we move on to the actual demonstration, I want to emphasize one thing, and that is the safety aspect of this. All right, we're talking about sharpening a pencil with an X-Acto knife, right? What is an X-Acto knife? Pretty much a razor blade on a metal stick, right? So one wrong slip and you may end up having to go to the doctor and get stitches. So be really careful while you're doing this. If you do it the way that I show you, I think it's a really safe method. If you're a young person watching this and you want to try it out, please go get an adult to help you out. Okay, so these are pencils fresh out of the box. Now most of the time they come sharpened, but they look like this. There's really not much graphite sticking out, and we're going to change that. So we're going to take our X-Acto knife. Now, the thing that people normally think that you're supposed to do is to take the knife and use a whittling motion, almost like that. And does that work? Absolutely. It does take the wood off of the pencil, but the problem is that when we do it, we're using a downward motion and putting a lot of downward pressure onto the graphite, and that a lot of times results in broken pencils, right? So I'm going to show you how to properly hold on to the pencil. So I'm going to take the pencil in my left hand. I'm going to hold it just like that between my thumb and my pointer finger. I'm going to take the X-Acto knife in my right hand, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the kind of that textured area of the X-Acto knife, I'm going to put that right up against my left thumb. Okay, just like that, with the blade pointing, the sharp end of the blade pointing away from me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to angle that blade slightly downward, and then instead of pushing the knife into the pencil and away from me, I'm actually going to pull the pencil into the knife. So I'm not going to do this. I'm going to pull the pencil into the knife. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to use my fingers, and I'm going to use my thumb to help stabilize the blade. And I'm going to pull it, after I angle the blade properly, I'm going to pull it into the blade. So again, I'm using the fingers on my left hand to pull the pencil into the blade. Now look at how controlled this is. I can take off as much or as little wood as I want, and I have complete control over the process. I'm not in danger of cutting myself. This is a great way to do it. So what I'll do is I will continue this motion, and I'll rotate the pencil as I go. And so that's going to allow me to take off the wood and shave away the wood evenly on all sides of the pencil. Now I like to go a good 1.5 inches or so away from the tip of the pencil and start taking the wood away from there. You got to do it very carefully, slowly, don't get into a rush. And this hand motion might feel awkward at first, but I think that you'll get the hang of it with some practice. Now you can see I'm starting to see a little bit of graphite there. So when that happens, you want to be especially careful, because it can be really easy to accidentally break it off and use too much pressure. So I'm going to very carefully strip away the rest of the wood that's right along that graphite rod. And again, changing the angle of the blade can really impact how much wood you're taking off. So I want that at a much more shallow angle, a much more of a flat angle as I strip the wood away that's near the graphite rod. I'm going to try and get the last little bits off of there. All right, and that's about how much we want exposed. Next, I'm going to grab my sanding paddle. Now, this is kind of a medium grit sandpaper. I don't think you want anything really fine, and I don't think that you want anything really coarse. Somewhere right in the middle is fine. Now, like I said, this is by a brand named Nitrum. They make some fantastic drawing products. I've got this paddle linked below. So again, if you want to check that out, click on the link and you can purchase it yourself. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the pencil flat on here, and I'm just going to then angle it up just ever so slightly. And I'm going to go back and forth. And the key here is you don't want to put a lot of pressure on the pencil, because if you do that, again, the graphite's going to break, especially if you're using a soft graphite. And the goal here is that we want to create a nice, long, tapered point that ends up being really sharp. So if I angle it too high, that's not going to happen. It's going to be sharp, but it's not going to be as tapered as we like, and that point's not going to last. So I want to keep my pencil laying fairly flat, and then I'm going to go back and forth. And as I do this, I'm also going to rotate the pencil so that I'm sanding it on all sides and getting it nice and even. So I'll continue sanding, and every once in a while you want to stop and take a look at it and see what the progress looks like. When you feel like you have a nice sharp point, you should be good to go, and that's kind of what we're looking for. A nice sharp point that's going to stay sharp and have a variety of uses. Now those are some good looking pencils. Hey guys, if you thought this video was helpful, I'd really encourage you to hit that like button and subscribe so that you can see more of this content going forward as I release new videos. And most importantly, get out and draw something.